Hello and welcome to Brain Health Matters, a podcast dedicated to helping you connect with the people and resources that will help you improve your memory, boost your brain, and reduce the risk of developing dementia. This week, we're talking about the incredible healing power of frequencies that encompass much more than sound. Stay tuned.
Brain Health Matters is brought to you by The Musical Brain, Book 3 in the Healthy Brain series. Enjoy the fun and easy practices in this book to improve your memory, sharpen focus, and master your mind with the healing power of music. Available on Amazon everywhere.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Kate Kunkel, and this is Brain Health Matters. Today, I have a very special guest and a good friend. Craig Goldberg is the president and co-founder of Inharmony Interactive, a company focused on creating vibroacoustic technology that enables us to experience sound and frequencies in a unique and powerful way. Welcome, Craig. I'm so excited that you're here with me.
Me too, Kate. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's just great to be able to talk about something I've been so passionate about for more than 20 years. And you have picked up the mantle and run with it in an amazing way.
I appreciate that. This is a very special moment for me. And every time I get to connect with you is a very special moment. And I mean that sincerely. Watching what you've done for this industry, being able to collaborate with you, learn from you, and really raise the vibration, quite literally, around what we're doing and the impact and the potential that this technology, the music that guides it, and the practitioners that utilize it is really quite special and quite powerful. I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too, because when I started this business, or when I started in this technology and modality all those years ago, there were so few of us. And I really had to work at explaining to people how you could even use sound in this powerful way. So you've done an amazing job educating. And I guess we should start maybe by how on earth did you get involved in this field?
All right, so it's a great question. And it was from a sound lounge experience, ultimately. But rewinding even further than that, about 10 years ago, my wife got sick and nobody could tell us what was going on with her. Doc after doc, test after test, specialist after specialist, everything came back negative. Nobody knew what was going on. And I kept bringing up diet and, could it be something in her kidneys or gallbladder, or, could it be related to something she's eating? And no, that can't be it. No. Anyway, we removed gluten from her diet, and 3 days later, literally all of her symptoms went away. It was one of the most miraculous things. All the doctors were like, this is miraculous, this is incredible. And of course now we know an awful lot, right? But this catalyzed a deep dive into really understanding food and its impact on our physiology. And it started this deep dive in making drastic changes in our lifestyle. And those drastic changes in our lifestyles were felt by friends and family. And they had questions and we had answers. And before we knew it, Ipek, my wife, and I were kind of guiding, teaching, and educating people on really how to live a healthy life. And that meant being super conscious of what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, and what you allow to be kept in the air around you, which is how these bodies interact with the world around us. And the amount of toxicity that we are surrounded by is downright remarkable. I mean, absolutely remarkable. And forgive the expression, but it's really like death by 1,000 cuts. So it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of exposure here. And when, these government agencies and regulatory agencies are looking at any one material for toxic load, yeah, I could actually see how they could be like, this is okay. When you put it all together and you realize quite how much toxicity we're exposed to day in and day out between just what we put in our mouths, what we put on our skin, lotions and potions, colognes and perfumes, and what we keep in the air around us, from incense to smog and air quality. I mean, there's so many different things. All of a sudden you start to realize that making strides in all three of those areas, you can clean yourself up pretty good, and you can slow down the taxation on our body, right? On our kidneys, on our liver, on the detoxification mechanisms that are within with our bodies. And for most of us, those are really on overdrive. we're constantly pulling this toxic load out. And for most of us, we can keep up with it. And for some of us, it leads to chronic ailments, chronic diseases. And we could certainly talk about that. But that was how we got into it. We started traveling around the world, teaching, training, and educating on how to live a healthy life, going to yoga retreats and transformational festivals and different conferences, and teaching people what we had just learned and come about in our daily practice. And in doing so, with each one of those events that we would go to, if there was a sound healer nearby, I would straight to it. I would like go to my hotel room, check in, and then whoop, straight to whatever was going on with the sound bath or sound healers or the healing sanctuaries, whatever it was, I was right there. And laying in front of these acoustic instruments was one of the most mystical and magical experiences of my entire life. I knew nothing of what I know now, obviously. I just knew it felt really good to lay in front of a gong that was playing, and I would lay there for a half hour, 45 minutes. I was out cold, and I woke up, and my body felt great, and my mind was clear, and I was focused and driven, and I was able to shed the chaos from whatever was coming into my world, coming into that event, and I felt great. So here I am traveling around the country, and then I get a phone call from my now business partner, Dom. And I was in New York taking care of my mom, who was in the hospital for 18 days. She's fine now, and she was fine then, but I had the flexibility to stay at her side. And I get a couple phone calls from a couple different friends that are like, hey, you gotta go talk to Dom. He's got something that I really think is right up your alley. I think you can really help him, and you gotta go check it out. And then Dom calls. We have a previous working relationship and friendship. And he says, hey, everybody's telling me I gotta reach out to you and that you could probably help with a business development and marketing angle on what we're doing. And Next Neuro had just gone out of business. Ed Bender had just passed. Josh wasn't interested in doing anything with the business. And Dom and our former business partner had gotten together and basically continued the legacy, if you will, of designing that product. And we did it underneath the moniker Holistic Health Science. And I got there and I laid down on this sound lounge and I was blown away. Absolutely blown away. And I took the headphones off halfway through the track and I just kind of laughing because if you rewind literally like 6 months before that, I was laying in my living room with a gong CD that I bought and I plugged it into my stereo system and I was cranking it and nothing was happening that I really wanted to happen. I mean, I was hearing this gong play through my home stereo system and nothing was really happening. And I took all the speakers. I had a 5.1, this is dates it, right? 60, I had 5.1 surround sound system. I took all 5 speakers and I'm laid out like a starfish in my living room. I have my right and front, left. I have my center channel in between my legs and I have my right and left back on either side. I'll never forget this, Kate. It's hilarious. All right, so in order to get from the garage to the kitchen, you had to go through the living room where I was starfished out. My wife comes in carrying 2 big bags of groceries in the brown paper bags and she had to walk over me. And I remember the look on her face as she was looking down on me, kind of laughing, like what are you doing? And I'm like, I want a sound healing. Like I want it, like this is what I want. And obviously I was using the wrong technology and I didn't realize what that was. The technology you want to use is called a tactile transducer, which these are the tactile transducers that we use.
For people who are who are just listening to this, it's a big round. Describe a transducer. It's it's a speaker without the cone, basically.
Yeah,
right?
totally. So I say all the time, and Dom it cracks me up. He's like, that's not exactly what it is, because he's the engineer in the group. But it's basically half of a speaker. What we usually see is the cone, and the cone comes off here. If you've ever seen a sound system in the back of a car, a 12-inch speaker that's moving in and out, that's the cone that's moving in and out. Directly behind that is a magnet. Now that magnet is usually the size of the black part of this disc. It's usually very, very tiny because the cone projects the sound. And when the cone projects the sound, it's actually moving the air. That thing that's moving back and forth is hitting each air molecule, which is colliding with each air molecule until it hits you. There's a loss rate there. When you're laying on top of a piece of technology like the Sound Lounge and your body is against the transducer, the efficiency is very high, the efficacy is very high, and the transfer loss is minimal. So what you get is the full vibration of sound, and we can get into even how that works too. So as it relates to my story, I was using the wrong technology. Fast forward to me laying down in the Sound Lounge, and I'm just literally laughing and smiling at Dom because he's created what I was dreaming of. And I didn't know anything about tactile transducers. I didn't really try and create anything, but Dom and Next Neuro had. And I was kind of blown away. So inside our Sound Lounge, you have 4 tactile transducers. They're wired in series, and that's important. For those that don't understand how this works, it's really, really, really straightforward. There's a magnet inside here that's suspended between two springs.
For podcast listeners, Craig is pointing to the transducer, and there are magnets on the outer edge of the transducer.
All right, so there's a metal enclosure, and inside the metal enclosure there is a magnet. That magnet oscillates, and it's hung between two springs. And basically, sound is nothing more than low voltage. So if you want a 20 hertz frequency, then you want the magnet that's inside this transducer to oscillate 20 times per second. So you're feeding into it low voltage that triggers that magnet to oscillate 20 times per second for a 20 hertz frequency, 40 times per second.
And that is resting against a lounge in our case, or a chair. It could be anything.
It could be in anything
that you're laying or sitting on, and that is going through your body. I think that's the important thing for people, because I was one of the first people to have one of those next neural lounges, the ones that you guys took over, and I still have mine. And they are incredible because, folks, if you have not ever experienced a true sound healing of any kind, it is something that you really must do. Body, mind, and spirit, and brain. It actually puts you in a state where nothing else really matters. You're just paying attention to this feeling, that sound, because we think of sound, usually most people think of it as music. We connect music and sound. And if we're going to be affected by anything, it's music. But these frequencies that are used in vibroacoustic, Craig was just pointing out the low one, we go from 20 to 120 hertz. Those very low frequencies have an impact on our body. Craig, when you experienced this for the first time, tell us what your body felt when you were on this equipment.
So laying in front of a gong, bells, chimes, a didgeridoo, these acoustic instruments, it feels great, and you absolutely have a response to it. Laying on top of a sound lounge, our practitioner, our meditation cushion, or any of the other products that are out there on the market, there are a variety of different shapes and sizes, chairs, and configurations for this type of technology. And it's amplified. It is intensified, if you want it to be. And I like it. By the way, I like to vibe.
You like it driving.
Yeah, I'm a club kid from New York City. I grew up in New York City hospitality and nightlife. Like, I'm used to 40,000 watt sound systems that are just cranking and feeling it, right? So for me to get on our sound lounge or frankly anything else, it's a much more intense experience, because it's amplified and it's driven, and because of that loss rate. When a gong is hit, even if you're a few feet away, it's still air molecules hitting your body, and that's what you're hearing and feeling. When you're laying on top of a tactile transducer or multiple tactile transducers, the amplification you need is much lower. For example, our sound lounge has 4 transducers. It's a 300 watt amplifier. So it's not a large amount of power or energy, and it's a huge impact. Every single cell in your body is tickled. And that's the best way that I can explain it. I mean, we could talk technically about what's happening in the body. Absolutely. We could talk about the nervous system response. We can talk about the triggers to releasing muscle tension. There's a variety of different things that are happening in the body. However, the conscious awareness that you have, every single cell in your body is feeling that frequency and that vibration.
Let's talk about what it does to the nervous system, because my topic here is brain health, and the brain is part of the central nervous system. And I would like to explain to our viewers and listeners how it is that this experience of sound in this way can have an impact on our brain via the central nervous system.
Absolutely. So first, let's talk about just some general definitions, if you will, of sympathetic nervous system response, parasympathetic nervous system response, and we'll keep it really, really simple, and we'll translate everything. So a sympathetic nervous system response is associated with fight or flight. It's associated with stressed and anxious. And it is how most Americans, because I can speak for Americans, but it's how most of us are walking around day in and day out, believe it or not. We are walking around stressed out, high levels of anxiety, and in a sympathetic nervous system response. Remember, that nervous system response is associated with fight or flight. And there's a number of different things that happen, like a checklist that your body goes, okay, we're in this sympathetic nervous system response. Here's the reaction that we're going to have from our body in order to maximize survivability of our vessel, of this human body. And then the flip side of that is a parasympathetic nervous system response, which is associated with cool, calm, and collected, calm and relaxed. It's where you are when you wake up in the morning, hopefully, if you're not getting woken up by a buzzing alarm and kids and dogs, cats, and all the other things that happen in this life that we've co-created together. But generally speaking, it's where you are when you're sitting on a beach without a to give, and you're just relaxing and chilling on vacation, and you're like, oh, I need to do this more often. That's a parasympathetic nervous system response, and that's how we should be and could be walking around day in and day out. So vibroacoustic therapy literally sends a mild trauma to the body, and we can talk about this in greater detail considering who I'm sitting here talking to, which is amazing to me. I just pinch myself. So vibroacoustic therapy actually sends a mild trauma to every cell in your body. This isn't a traumatic experience. It's not anything that you would recognize as such. However, from a scientific perspective, that's what's happening. And then the chemical cascades that are triggered through the body to transcend that traumatic experience, to rebound from that traumatic experience, and it takes about 15 minutes or so for that chemical cascade to kick in, sends the different chemicals that calm the nervous system, calm the body, and relax the body. And it's in that state that this technology resets the nervous system. It's by that mechanism of action that we literally reset a sympathetic nervous system response to parasympathetic nervous system response in about formally 23 minutes. However, it takes 15 for the chemical cascades to kick in. And in a matter of that 22 or 23-minute session, you're coming out of it with a calm and relaxed nervous system versus a stressed and anxious nervous system. Now, there's something that's really important to note here, and I know you know this, but I want your viewers to know it. And that is, if we walk right back into the environment that caused the sympathetic nervous system response, we're going to have a sympathetic nervous system response.
Exactly.
It's going to come back.
Yes, it is. The good thing about vibroacoustic therapy is that it gets you there, but then it's up to you to do what you can to stay in that state. And that's what's so important to our brains. We have so many stressors that cause brain fog, that cause inability to concentrate, that cause dementia and Alzheimer's. Those are all related to partly to inflammation, but stress is one of the biggest issues when it comes to brain health. And that's why I was so excited to have Craig on to talk about this, because what we really need to find ways to get to that state. And that's what I think vibroacoustic therapy, because it works whether or not you believe in it. It works whether or not you know how to meditate. It works whether or not, well, I guess if you don't like it, but I don't know anybody who doesn't like it, but it works. So the thing
it
is,
feels great. It's challenging to me. I scratch my head sometimes when I offer what we do at no charge. Just say, hey, come on over and enjoy a session. And people are either apprehensive about it or they just straight say, no, I'm not interested. I'm like, it feels good, right? And there's one more thing that I want to add just on that last thought with the sympathetic and parasympathetic and that sort of thing. The more often you use vibroacoustic therapy, the easier it becomes to stay in that calm and relaxed state. So you're literally training your nervous system. Your brain is always learning. It's always being trained. You're either training it with good habits or you're training it with bad habits. So the more often you do vibroacoustic therapy, the longer you will hold the benefits given the same environment. Now, I hope you change those environments and you start to realize what is causing the stress, what is causing the anxiety. The reality is this life that we've co-created, this societal culture that we've co-created is a stressful one, and I completely sympathize and have compassion for that. And many of us are dealing with an awful lot every single day, and it feels mandatory. It feels like this is the life and this is the cards that I was dealt, and I need to handle that. And there are times where we need to handle that. Vibroacoustic therapy and the benefits that it proposes and offers, the benefits can be felt for days. And all of a sudden, like a soldier going into combat, you are better equipped to handle what is thrown at you coming from a cool, calm, and collected place than you are coming from a stressed and anxious place.
That's right. You also are healthier, right? It actually helps you become physically healthier. I would like to just interject here for a moment. When you said about holding on to that state, that parasympathetic healing state, I treated a lot of people with Parkinson's disease. And if they came in just once a week, we could help them reduce their tremors for a day or so, sometimes longer. But if they did this every day, their tremors basically went away as long as they were doing the therapy. So like if they didn't do it for 3 or 4 days, the tremors might come back. But that was amazing to me when I first started doing this, because I realized that we can actually get someone in a physical response can stop or start based on this being in this parasympathetic state, because Parkinson's has so many components, but a big part of it is anxiousness and all of the physical things that come about from that. So I just wanted to put that out there, because we could see in very physical ways the way that the vibroacoustic therapy can build you to a part of to a state of better nervous system state, but also a better physical, conscious physical feeling.
Yeah, I'm tearing up right now, and they're not going to be able to hear it or see it. But I think back to just the handful of people that I've personally helped with, in with that particular diagnosis, and the look on their face when they stand up and their hands are still. It it lights me up. It's why I do what we do, and creating community and getting this out. And that's not even our countless affiliates and certified vibroacoustic therapy practitioners that you've trained that have gone through the training, and the handful more that just jumped on board a couple days ago, which I love that chatter that's going on in our private community. But the could we talk about it being anti-spasmodic?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So vibroacoustics, the vibration itself, it literally sends a trigger to the muscles to relax. And this is something that's really important, um, not just with these diagnoses or with seizures or tremors and those types of things. But look, I've put people on the Sound Lounge for the first time, not knowing their entire history, right? Because we talk, when you're coming to me as a formal vibroacoustic therapy client, we're going to have an intake. We're going to talk about your background. We're usually there to work on a specific ailment or issue. We have a specific goal in place, and we're going to put together a protocol that's going to talk about that. Taking a step back from that, just looking at Inharmony Interactive's product line and what we've done, we made it very general and very easy, so that you're basically laying on the lounge listening to music. And we keep it very, very simple. However, a lot of the benefits are still there, if not all of the benefits
Of
are still
course.
there, right? Dealing with specific protocols for specific disease states and that sort of thing. That's the scientific side of what we get into. But in general, you're a guy or a gal laying on our bed listening to music. Let's keep it really simple. However, it's anti-spasmodic. It resets your nervous system. It calms and relaxes the mind-body, reinforces the mind-body connection. There are so many different benefits. And this anti-spasmodic aspect to it, which is a fancy word for saying muscles loosen and relax. I've got folks that get on the Sound Lounge, they have their experience, they get off and they go, like they, all of a sudden they move their arm with a range of motion that to me looks very normal. And they look at me and they go, that's an old tennis injury. I haven't been able to do this in 15 years, like that sort of thing. And what happens in that case is he had an injury. This person in particular had an injury in college playing tennis. The muscles tightened around that injury. It healed, and the muscles will never send that trigger to release. So he's been tight and tense, and he said massage therapy and chiropractic and all these different things hadn't worked. I said, well, call me in a couple days and let's see if that stays. And sure enough, weeks later, he still had that full range of motion. Why? Because the injury wasn't there anymore. He fixed himself, triggered the muscles to relax, and now he's got that full range of motion. This to me is just like one of the magical applications, because we don't know everything that's going on in everybody's body when they get on the tech. And then to have these types of outcomes. Now, it's the same principle for tremors, seizures, and some of these other things where the nervous system starts to twitch uncontrollably for a variety of different factors. However, vibroacoustic therapy can calm that, and it does it very efficiently. Not every single time, and not always for long periods of time. However, again, with repeated use, and this is something that I know we both come across as practitioners on a regular basis. Particularly Americans. I won't talk for the rest of the world. I'm an American. I can talk about that. We want a quick fix. what might have taken us years to accumulate by way of degrading our body and giving us poor inputs, we want it fixed right away. And that's not always the case. If it took you 10 years to get into the state where you are today, it might take you 10 years to get out of it. It might take you 5, it might take you 2, but it's definitely not going to take one session. So
I think that's an important thing for all modalities, whether it's changing your diet, because if you need to lose 100 pounds, you're not going to lose 100 pounds in 6 months. Well, not healthily anyway. And you're not going to fix a bad knee or whatever in one session on vibroacoustics. I have to share a fun story with you about vibroacoustics and an old injury. I personally hurt my knee 50 years ago in a car accident. Wow, I just realized it was that long ago, 50 years ago. And the first time I got, not on my first sound therapy equipment, but on the first time I got on the next neuro, I had this horrible pain in my knee. And like all through the session, it was like tingling and carrying on. And then I got up off the session and it was gone. And I realized for the first time in many, many years that my knee didn't hurt. Like it wasn't a bad hurt all those years, but it was there. It was a niggling pain.
yeah.
And after the vibroacoustic, it went, oh, I don't have that anymore. How cool is that?
Yeah. It's well, look, there's aspects of neuropathy that we help with, increases in circulation, increases in lymphatic drainage. I mean, these are all, look, the circulatory system, for the most part, our blood reaches every cell in our body to give it vitamins and nutrients through capillaries. Those capillaries are often one cell wide. And if you ever do blood microscopy, if you ever look at your blood underneath the microscope, what happens when you're toxic, what happens when you're not moving around, exercising, taking care of your body, is the red blood cells, they start to clump together and travel together. And my words, not anybody else's, it's as if the polarity of the blood kind of starts to attract other cells. And all of a sudden, they can't get into those capillaries and can't get to parts of your cellular structure in order to feed it the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that it needs.
Especially the brain.
And you start getting into the different nuances of the brain, and absolutely. So that's one half of the scenario. So vibroacoustic therapy can help to, again, my words, not anybody else's, to repolarize the blood cells so that they travel by themselves and independently again, and they can get into the capillaries. Now, when that happens, and all of a sudden you have blood rushing to a part of your body that it's never been to before. Look, we've all fallen, our leg has fallen asleep, our arm fell asleep. I got a 2-year-old, she falls asleep on me, I don't move. And if I can't feel my arm because it's in a weird position, like I'm sacrificing my arm for my daughter's rest and my peace and quiet. And then when she gets up and she starts moving and I move that arm for the first time, I'm like, the rush of blood, you can feel it and it gets tingly. And that's very similar to what might have happened to you. That's one half of it. The other half of it is we have 2 main systems in the body. It's interesting. I got these posters all over my room now, and one of them just fell. But the circulatory system is arteries and veins, which is pumped by the heart. The other is our lymphatic drainage system, which is governed by gravity. And most people don't realize that if we're not jumping around and moving, walking, running, jogging, jumping on a rebounder, there's a variety of different ways that you can do it that is even with where you are in life and what your capabilities are. But it's really important to jump up and down every day. And one of the things that happens to us sitting in these seats, sitting at these desks for so long, is that lymphatic drainage might not happen and it gets backed up. And when it gets backed up, you either need to jump up and down, or you need to go get some lymphatic drainage massage, or get on vibroacoustic therapy. Because literally, as we're shaking every cell, we're also shaking up your lymphatic drainage system. We have over 500 lymph nodes in the body. Sometimes they get clogged, sometimes they get backed up. We're used to it when the body's not feeling well and we're fighting something off. We're used to the lymph nodes under our neck getting swollen, but that's just 4 or 8 of 500 some odd that we have in the body, behind the ears, behind the neck, underneath the arms, all over the body, inside your face, your sinuses. They're really quite everywhere. And when they get backed up, we're obviously not releasing toxicity, as we just opened with the toxic world that we live in. This is a really important system. Vibroacoustic therapy helps to drain that. It's another one of the reasons why you need to drink lots of water, because now all of a sudden you have this potential increased toxic load in your bloodstream from lymphatic drainage, and that all needs to go to the kidneys, and it all needs to go to the liver so that it can get cleaned, cleansed, and eliminated ultimately from the body. So
That's right. That's a very good point because a lot of people, especially as they get older, they tend not to drink as much water. Dehydration is a huge problem, and it's a huge risk factor for developing all kinds of brain problems, memory problems when you're younger even. It's hard to concentrate. You know what it's like. If you're feeling thirsty, you can't think straight. That's what, I mean, you don't have very much time to not drink. You have to drink, and pure water, folks, not Coke, not coffee, although coffee's okay in
I
moderation.
love it. Beer's water.
Well, beer's
It's got
water.
water in it. I'm like, no.
It does have water in it, and mostly it's more clean than much of the water we get, right? But it's important to drink water. That's the point I'm trying to make. All of these other things are not giving you hydration, and that's the most important thing for many things, for your brain, for your lymphatic system, for your glymphatic system, which is the drainage system for the brain. We need to do all of that. Craig, that's a great explanation, but I want to talk a little bit before we go, because we try to keep these to about half an hour. I want to learn a little bit about the brain tap. Because I'm here, I don't have one of those systems, but what does that have in relation to vibroacoustics?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple unique factors that are happening here, and we've got an amazing partnership with BrainTap. Dr. Patrick Porter is a dear friend, a brother, and really somebody that's been running in this industry just like you have for 20 years. And BrainTap is in the business of brain physical therapy, or physical therapy for your brain. And it's a really interesting way to explain it, because when I say physical therapy or exercise, we immediately think of getting outside, getting into nature, going on a hike, how important that is for brain development and brain health, and how important that is for our bodies to stay strong into older age, or any age for that matter. Many of us work out our bodies every single day, but so few of us actually work out our brains. And vibroacoustic therapy by itself, it does induce different brainwave states. We can certainly talk about the brain and brainwave states, but I have a feeling your people probably already know an awful lot about that. When I met Dr. Patrick Porter and we started talking, he immediately gravitated towards our music selection, because Inharmony Media also makes music that drives the tech. And particularly, we started with 10 solfeggio frequencies. And at the time that Patrick and I had started, we only had them in 3 durations: 11 minutes, 22 minutes, and 33 minutes. And Patrick said, we would love to talk about a partnership. What if we took your music, put it in our app, and coded it to activate the BrainTap headset? We'll talk about that in a second. And I said, that's great, as long as I can include it in my app to our people as well. And he said, great, let's do it. And that's what we've done. So we have this very unique relationship with BrainTap. And we have this very unique merging of the two technologies that are both by themselves absolutely incredible. The BrainTap headset by itself is wonderful, and we'll talk about that in detail. Obviously, the sound lounge and vibroacoustic therapy, it's a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of scenario where you're now listening to our music through the BrainTap headset. So the BrainTap headset looks like headphones, and it has headphones. However, it has several different modalities and benefits brought into it. So the first is, when you get the headset and you put it on, you'll notice that there is red and blue LED therapy on the ears. This actually brings, the red LEDs bring blood and circulation to your ears. The blue helps to cleanse and clean and get rid of unhealthy bacteria and unhealthy viruses actually from your bloodstream in a very remarkable way. And then your heart pumps that blood throughout the rest of your body. So just through a 22-minute session, you're circulating all of your blood through your ears, and it's getting exposure to red and blue LED therapy. Then the music is encoded, and a visor comes down over your eyes. Inside the visor are 4 blue LEDs over each eye, and they're flickering at specific pulsation ratios that literally entrains or entertains your brain into a specific brainwave state. So remember yesterday or before when I said we're always training our brains. We're either training it positively or negatively. Think of this as the positive training, teaching your brain how to move from beta, eyes open, processing the world around you, into alpha, theta, delta, gamma, or SMR. And I'm not an expert on SMR, which is another brainwave state that Patrick just kind of threw at me literally like 2 weeks ago. He was like, here's 10 more tracks. And I was like, what's SMR? So I'm still learning a little bit, but you can Google it and you can look that up. But another brainwave state that you can entrain. So using the BrainTap headset with or without our tech, you're listening to music and enjoying a specific brainwave and training your brain to move from alpha into theta, theta into delta, delta into alpha, and moving back and forth. This helps obviously with the efficiency of brain operations day to day and moving in and out of different brainwave states. It also helps with us getting ready for a nap, preparing for sleep, waking up from a nap, waking up from sleep, moving and transitioning from eyes open, processing the world around us, thinking as I point to my desk and my computers and everything I've got going on here, to maybe laying down and resting for a second when I'm not exhausted, but I know that I just need to close my eyes for a second, and transitioning from beta into alpha, alpha into theta. It includes sitting down and meditating on a meditation cushion with or without our technology. But you're basically teaching your brain how to move in and out of these different brainwave states. And there's a couple of other things. There's 10 cycle isochronic tones, which you'll hear embedded in the music. It sounds kind of like a, and that your brain is picking up on those auditory signals and cueing to it and pacing it. The isochronic tones and the photobiomodulation over the eyes, it changes every 3 seconds. So we might not consciously pick up on the fact that it's changing, but the brain does. And because it sees that change, the brain gravitates and is constantly looking for patterns. And because it's constantly looking for a pattern that's changing every 3 seconds, it's very entertained and stays in that brainwave state. And then we also have binaural beats, and then you also have the benefits of the music itself and the solfeggio frequencies embedded. So really powerful partnership, really powerful headset. And I think it's important to note, when you're using it with our technology, it is one harmonious experience. You are laying on the sound lounge, feeling the vibrations, listening to the same music with the activation of the binaural beats, brainwave entrainment, isochronic tones, and the light visor all at once. It is a magical experience. Magical.
I would love to see more people who are in early stages of mild cognitive decline. And I know many people are diagnosed with that, and about 10% of them will ultimately end up with dementia. I'm convinced that with other lifestyle changes, which are necessary, diet, exercise, that sort of thing, doing a technology like this would be very, very powerful to help them, the brain get the exercise it needs. Because we can do those brain games, on computers, and we can learn a new language. That's an idea. We can learn a musical instrument. But all of the things that those do could also, it sounds from, I don't know much about the brain tap, but it sounds like that you're doing the same kind of thing with this technology. And it would make it easier then to follow through on the other things that would make your brain healthier.
Yeah, it's also passive, right? Like the Sound Lounge, you're laying down and you're enjoying a session. Now, when you, if you do make a purchase through Inharmony and you choose to purchase a Brain Tap or any of our Cocoon products, which is the merger of the Brain Tap with our technology, you also get a link and a free gift to their app. You don't need it. Our app has the tracks that you need, as I talked about in our partnership. However, that's only 120 tracks. And people tell me all the time that there are different use cases for different tracks. In their Power User app, you get 1,800 programs.
Wow.
And I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. And the amount of science and research that is backed, that they're constantly doing. They have an entire arm and department dedicated to research studies, partnerships with countries and governments, with major institutions here in the United States. It's very impressive what they do.
Perfect segue, Craig. You timed this perfectly to then let us know how people can take advantage of this. I'm assuming going to the website is the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the show notes, we'll actually put a 5% discount code that will give you 5% off on any of the products that you choose, including the Brain Tap or any of our Cocoon products. At the bottom of our website, which is iaminharmony.com, we'll put that link in the show notes as well, iaminharmony.com. When you go to that website, all the way down at the bottom, you will find links to all of our social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And you'll also find our address if you want to come visit us in Southern California, in San Diego, and a phone number if you want to reach out and call us. It's an 800 number. You can call us from anywhere in the world. That rings this beautiful cell phone right here for the most part. And I would love to speak with you day or night, weekend or weekday. I have a 2-year-old. I keep a very odd schedule. I tell people all the time, like, don't hesitate to call. You're never going to bother me. I sleep with my phone in airplane mode. So if I don't want to be disturbed, I won't be. But pick up the phone and call. It doesn't matter the time zone or where you are, what's going on. Just give me a shout.
Perfect, perfect. I'm so grateful for your time here, Craig. It was a great discussion, and I hope people take this to heart. Understand that we can do so much without working too hard. We can enjoy it. We can have an amazing experience, improve our health overall, get in a nice rest and relax and rejuvenate state.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate you. Excited to meet with and connect with your audience.
Thanks,
so much.
Craig. You've been listening to the Brain Health Matters podcast, created and hosted by Kate Kunkel. You'll find more episodes along with the latest brain health research on our website at brainhealthmatters.today. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and if there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, let us know. We'll see if we can't find someone who can talk about it. And your help getting the word out is also appreciated by writing a review, subscribing, or sharing our podcast. Thanks again for joining us. See you next week.